My grandma just strictly warned me never to look into a mirror at 3 a.m. But you know what? I'm gonna do it anyway. What's the worst that could happen, right?
My name is Alara Green, and I made a terrible mistake of looking into the mirror 3 o'clock in the morning. The old house always hummed with secrets, a low, persistent thrum beneath the floorboards and behind the peeling wallpaper. It was a sound I'd grown up with, as familiar as the scent of Grandma Alara's lavender sachets or the creak of the attic stairs. But no secret was as potent, as deeply ingrained in my 20 years of existence as her warning: never, ever look into a mirror at 3 o'clock in the morning. Child, some things are best left undisturbed. Grandma Clara was a woman woven from old lace and forgotten lore. Her hands, gnarled with age, would often trace patterns in the air as she spoke of omens and ancient taboos. When she spoke of the mirror, her usually twinkling eyes would turn serious, almost haunted, reflecting a deep, unspoken fear. She'd never elaborate, never explain why, only that it was a time when the veil thinned, when things from elsewhere could reach through. I'd always dismissed it as another one of her quaint superstitions, a relic from a bygone era, a charming eccentricity. But a part of me, a curious, rebellious part, always wondered what lay beyond that forbidden hour. It was the same part that devoured old horror novels, that sought out abandoned places, that felt a strange, unnameable restlessness beneath my skin. Tonight, that curiosity gnawed at me with an insistent, almost physical ache. I lay in bed, the silence of the house pressing in, amplifying the frantic beat of my own heart. Every tick of the antique grandfather clock downstairs seemed to reverberate through the floorboards, a relentless countdown. The digital clock on my knitstand glowed a stark, accusatory red. 2:58 a.m. 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes until the witching hour, the devil's hour, the time when the veil between worlds supposedly thinned to nothing. As a curious 20-year-old woman, I needed closure on why my grandma warned me against looking in the mirror at 3 in the morning. A shiver traced its way down my spine, but it wasn't entirely from fear. There was a strange, almost magnetic pull, a whisper in the deepest part of my mind urging me on. What if she was wrong? What if it was just an old wives' tale? What if there was something more? My rational mind fought, throwing up arguments. You're being ridiculous, Alara. It's just a mirror. It's just a time. But a deeper, more primal urge, one I couldn't name, was winning. It felt like a current, pulling me inexorably towards the gleaming surface. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet cold against the wooden floor, each step a silent defiance. The air in my room felt strangely heavy, charged, as if electricity crackled just beyond the edge of my perception. A faint, acrid scent, like ozone or distant sulfur, seemed to cling to the air, subtle but unsettling. I padded silently to the full-length mirror that leaned against the wall opposite my bed. My reflection stared back, a pale, ordinary girl with wide, expectant eyes, a faint tremor in her hands. She looked like me, but there was a flicker of something else in her gaze, a nascent hunger I hadn't noticed before. 2:59 a.m. I took a deep, shaky breath, the air suddenly thick, heavy, almost sulphurous. My stomach clenched, a knot of apprehension and a strange, dark excitement. The silence stretched, taut and suffocating, broken only by the frantic drum of my own heart against my ribs. My pupils dilated, drinking in the dim light, and I felt a prickle of goosebumps rise on my arms. Then the numbers flipped. 3 a.m. I stared into my own eyes in the mirror. For a second, nothing. Just my reflection, still pale, still ordinary. And then it began. It wasn't a gradual shift, but a violent, agonizing eruption. My eyes were the first to change. The irises, once a dull hazel, began to glow, a searing, malevolent red that pulsed with an unholy light, like embers in a forge. My reflection's face contorted, twisting into something grotesque, something utterly alien. My jaw elongated, teeth sharpening into needle-like points, and my cheekbones seemed to stretch, pulling my skin taut and waxy. I gasped, but the sound that escaped my throat was not my own. It was a guttural, inhuman rasp, a sound ripped from the depths of a nightmare. My skin felt as if it were tearing, stretching, pulling taut over newly forming structures beneath. A searing heat bloomed across my back, followed by an unbearable pressure. Bones ground and shifted with sickening pops and cracks that echoed in the silent room, a symphony of my own undoing. My body arched, a horrifying dance of transformation, as if an unseen sculptor were violently reshaping me, twisting my spine, elongating my limbs. I could feel the muscles coiling, thickening, becoming something dense and powerful. My fingers elongated, nails hardening into obsidian claws.
What have I become? This can't be real.
A once beautiful 20-year-old woman, I began transforming into a monster. Then came the wings. 2 massive, fleshy nubs burst from my shoulder blades, ripping through my nightgown with a wet, tearing sound that made me gag. Excruciating pain lanced through me, a white-hot agony that threatened to consume my consciousness, but it was quickly overshadowed by a terrifying surge of raw power. The wings unfurled, leathery and bat-like, stretching wide to fill the mirror's frame, their dark membranes catching the faint moonlight, veined with pulsing black lines. My face, once soft and human, was now sharp, angular, undeniably demonic, a mask of pure malevolence. It took only 30 seconds. 30 seconds to shed my humanity, to become this thing. I stared at my reflection, horrified. This wasn't me. This couldn't be me. But the glowing red eyes, the contorted features, the monstrous wings, they were undeniably mine. The pain subsided, replaced by something far more terrifying, an overwhelming, profound, gnawing hunger. It wasn't for food, not for anything I'd ever known. It was a deep, primal craving, a burning emptiness in my gut that screamed for one thing: human meat. My moral conscience, the last vestiges of Alara, the girl I once was, recoiled in disgust. No, this is wrong. This is monstrous. I could hear my own thoughts, clear and horrified, battling against the rising tide of instinct. You can't, you won't. But the hunger was a roaring beast, too strong to control. It consumed every thought, every shred of decency, every memory of who I used to be. It was a fire in my veins, a relentless drumbeat in my skull. I was a predator, and the world outside was my hunting ground. A sudden, vivid image flashed through my mind. Grandma Alara, her face etched with a sorrow I'd never understood, whispering about the bloodline, about a secret, a burden passed down through generations. Her grandma had an affair with a powerful, high-ranking demon, and she was a human-demon hybrid, waiting to be transformed. The words, once a vague, unsettling family myth, now slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't a curse. It was an inheritance. My grandmother's warning wasn't about avoiding a danger, but about delaying an inevitability. I was born this way, a dormant seed of monstrosity, waiting for the precise moment, the precise act, to bloom. The mirror, the witching hour, my own defiant curiosity, they were merely the keys to a cage I never knew I was in. Without conscious thought, driven by an instinct far older than my human years, I lunged towards the window, shattering the glass with a force I didn't know I possessed. Shards rained down, glittering like malevolent diamonds. The cool night air rushed in, a dizzying current that caught my newly unfurled wings. I pushed off, clumsy at first, the unfamiliar muscles protesting, then with a terrifying grace, soaring into the night sky. The wind roared past my ears, a symphony of newfound freedom and horrifying purpose. The sensation was intoxicating, a primal thrill that warred with a lingering horror. The city lights twinkled below, a vast, sprawling feast, each one a potential meal. My senses were heightened, every scent, every sound amplified. The faint, metallic tang of blood, the subtle warmth of living flesh, it called to me, an irresistible siren song. My vision, now adapted to the darkness, picked out movement with chilling clarity. A lone figure walking down a dimly lit street, headphones on, oblivious. My new eyes, sharp and predatory, focused. My body moved with an instinct I couldn't fight, a swift, silent descent. The moral conscience screamed, a desperate, futile plea in the back of my mind. Stop. Don't do this. You're a human. But the hunger was a roaring beast, too strong to control. It consumed every thought, every shred of decency. I was a predator, and the world outside was my hunting ground. The human in me was a tiny, whimpering voice, drowned out by the thunder of my wings and the insatiable craving. I was no longer seeing a person, I was seeing prey. I lunged. The first kill was brutal, efficient, a blur of instinct and raw power. A fleeting moment of terror for them, an overwhelming, sickening satisfaction for me. As the warmth of life drained away, a horrifying clarity washed over me. This was it. This was my truth. Grandma's warnings, her haunted eyes, they weren't just superstitions. They were echoes of a past I was born into, a destiny I couldn't escape. My grandmother's affair with a powerful, high-ranking demon had created me a human-demon hybrid, waiting for this very moment. The mirror at 3 a.m. hadn't cursed me. It had merely awakened what was always dormant within. I still had a moral conscience, a faint, agonizing flicker of the girl I was, but it was a prisoner in this new, monstrous form. It was a constant, dull ache beneath the surge of power, a reminder of what I had lost. The hunger, the power, the sheer, undeniable rightness of it all had taken over. I was no longer Alara. I was now complete in my true form. And the night was just beginning. The city below, once a place of comfort, was now a vast, tempting larder. My new reality stretched before me, a terrifying, endless expanse of predatory existence.